You're live.
Who's running this show?
Are we live, Patrick?
We are.
Okay. Well, it's called meeting to order, Public Utilities Commission, meeting September 4th, 2024. It is 4:13 p.m. I'll do a roll call. I see Bill Hanson is here. Mike Roth. Charles is absent, right? Or
Yeah, he's absent.
Charles is missing today? Okay. And then, Neil is present, and who's sitting next to Bill?
Scott Warner.
Oh, Scott. Okay. Hi, Scott.
Greetings.
We brought him up to be.
I heard your name. Okay. All right. I knew you were on staff and working already, so that's nice to see. Thank you very much for that. And myself, Craig Schulte, is present, and that is everybody. Okay. The agenda is as follows: wastewater superintendent introduction, service line rules, and other items. Do we have a motion to approve today's agenda?
So move.
I'll second that. So the agenda is approved, and we'll move on to the third item on the agenda is the wastewater superintendent introduction. So welcome, Scott, to the city of Grand Marais. Yeah. And Mike, maybe I suppose you're going to have a little overview of
Very brief.
Scott.
And I'm going to turn it over to him. I just want to say welcome like you did and let everybody know this is Scott's first day on the job. So first day here, and we have Neil for a few more months where they're going to be working together. And at the end of the year, improved Neil is going to retire with us, and Scott will be on board full time. So if you just want to say a few things, you don't have to say much, just hello. And
Yeah, say hi and thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. And this is my retirement job, so I figure I've got somewhere 8, 10, 12 odd years before I can retire, so I'm jealous. But I'm looking forward to it. My wife and I will be in the process of moving up here in the not too distant future, and looking forward to the opportunity. So thank you.
so these meetings are held monthly, although not typically monthly because sometimes we don't have any agenda items, but we're getting into the period where we will. Next month, Scott and potentially Neil will be back, and we'll be talking about water and wastewater budgets. So the next thing on the agenda is just a discussion as well, and it's really more of an update for you board members. We've had a couple of recent service line leaks and issues in town that have been difficult to deal with, and of course always catch folks that are connected to them by surprise to find out that it's their responsibility to fix them. So I thought I would just give you some background on why that is the case and who makes that decision. So first of all, let me share my screen. This is the city's website, and you can find a link to the municipal code, the city code, on our website, and it's searchable. It's really easy to find things that you're looking for. This section is in Chapter 33, Service Charges, Special Assessments Against Benefited Property. That's the name of the chapter.
I can't see it from up there.
So, what does it say? Whenever the city installs or repairs water service lines serving private property, the utilities manager shall keep a record of the total cost of the installation or repair against the property and deliver such information to the council as to each parcel. Now, why are we keeping track of it and delivering it to the council? Back to the name of the chapter, because it is one of the charges that the city code authorizes the city to special assess against a property. So in this case, this is why we have easements on private service lines, because sometimes a repair needs to be made, and sometimes we're the only ones that are willing to do the work. And because it is the property owner's responsibility, this piece is in place. But this doesn't really explain very clearly whose responsibility it is, I don't think. Another clue comes in the applications for service. The applicant agrees to conform to this chapter and to rules and regulations that may be established by the city and the Utilities Commission, and that's enough of that chapter. What it's telling us is the Utilities Commission has rules, so they're not the city code, there's something different. They're the actual rules that you, as the Public Utilities Commission, adopt. Let's take a quick look at those. And Rule 19.3 then is where we get very clear about who's responsible for what. The city will maintain the service line from the main to the curb stop valve. We're talking about water here. If a leak in the service line occurs beyond the area maintained by the utilities, the property owner will be notified of the leak. Upon notification, the property owner will be expected to have the leak fixed within a reasonable time. We retain the right to discontinue water service to the property if, in my opinion, or someone else of your designated opinion, corrective action is inappropriate, untimely, or the magnitude of the leak warrants disconnect. So, for instance, if we had a leak big enough that we were having a difficult time serving the rest of the community with water, we might have to shut it off until it's fixed, even if the person doesn't believe that it's their responsibility. This is your rule. So the rules about water say from the main to the curb stop valve, the city, or in this case the Utilities Commission, will maintain that service line. Once we reach the curb stop valve, it becomes private, and it is the responsibility of the property owner. Just to pile on, one of the difficult situations we're currently dealing with right now has a private service line that past the curb stop connects to 4 different buildings with 3 different owners and 2 different renters, maybe 3 different renters. So there's a whole lot of parties involved. The first property owner doesn't need the service and doesn't want to be connected to it. And so although this language says we notify the property owner, it's not helpful because there's 4 of them. Which one is it? And how do we even know who they are? Because these lines are private service lines, we don't have records of who's connected to what all the time. And it can be a little tricky. So I just wanted you to be up to speed on what the rules say and whose rules they are. They're yours. You get to decide whether you think this is the right rule or whether you'd rather it be something else. So let's just imagine a situation where the city maintained all the service lines and we didn't ask the property owners to be responsible. I'm not aware of any cities that do that, but if we did, in this case, we've got a private service line that goes under a building of a person who's not connected to it, and the leak is under the building. And so we can't even get to it and fix it. No one can. And what has to happen is a new service line needs to be installed that isn't under a building. But we don't have an easement to go across private property in a different location. No one does. So someone has to go out and get permission from a different private property owner to cross their private property in a place that's not under a building so that they can serve. How does this all come about? It's a common story in this town, and I suspect a lot of towns. When this utility was installed originally, there was probably one property owner that had all the property, or was friends with the property owner in front, and they had a handshake deal, or who knows what happened. But it was fine at the time, and it doesn't age well. I've got a similar situation in my own house where my neighbor's sewer line ends up going right across my front yard on its way to Fifth Avenue. And when she needs to get it fixed, then she has to dig in my yard. And she doesn't have an easement, but thankfully we're good neighbors. But that happens in places, and it's really tricky stuff. And it's important for the folks that are connected to it to have a stake in it and to be involved in the fixing of it. It's just one of those things that people rarely think about, and I think that is most of the time a symptom of our staff doing a good job providing service. Like, you flush the toilet and you don't have to wonder any more about it. It's gone, and you don't have to think about anything else. You turn on the faucet and the water comes out, and as long as that's the case, you don't invest any time thinking about where does it come from or what's mine to maintain. Plus, all these things are buried under the ground, so you may not even know where they are. Most people, I'm sure, have no idea when they buy their house where their utility services are buried underground. So it comes as a bit of a shock then when there's a break and they need to get involved in repairing it. And it takes a little time for folks to get ready for that. So does anybody have any questions about what the rules say or anything you might have heard or?
So with all these possibilities of utilities under buildings or under other people's land, like you said, there are people who buy places and move into places and don't know where the utilities are. You know, it's a little different when you buy a house in the county and they have to provide you with a updated septic inspection. So they're kind of going ahead and saying, yeah, things are working, things are operating. We don't have any checks and balances like that, that deal with anything like that. So brings me back to, I did get a letter, I think, concerning this situation, and is there, can we talk about this at the meeting, or is there some, is there water leaking in somebody's basement right now that is groundwater or city water? Are we trying to establish that?
There isn't any basements involved in this. There is a leaking
Oh, okay.
service line. And I'm not sure if it's still connected, but we're in the process of connecting the folks that are past the leak to temporary service so we can shut it off.
Okay.
And I got a phone call from somebody who had a leaking toilet and didn't know it, and is unhappy about her bill. Is there any provision for that, or is it just tough luck, or do you?
Yeah, we have a rule about that too, and the rule is was amended a few years ago that if someone has a billing question about a leak in their building, then all they have to do is talk to, in this case, Neil and Scott. At the time, it was Tom Nelson. And if it can be determined at a staff level that clearly the water did not enter the sanitary sewer system, then we'll just provide them with a credit on the sanitary sewer part of their bill. They'll still have to pay for the water that leaked. And if we can't determine, or we can determine that it did indeed enter the sanitary sewer system, then they don't get a break.
So there's no provision for people that are, don't have the capacity to know that they have a leak, and then when they discover it, they're $1,000 down the tube?
It usually doesn't get to that. We are in the process of installing automatic meter infrastructure, which really helps us help monitor that as well.
Yeah.
Instead of just on a monthly basis where we had a chance to look and say, wow, that's quite a bit higher than I'm used to. We can set alarms now to look at that on a daily basis.
Back to the original problem of the fractured ownership.
Yeah.
When you're installing the automatic meters, can we address those situations at that time so they're?
No. We won't be touching the service lines at all, and we won't know that that exists until a problem comes up.
But
You don't know until after the fact.
well, you could stay alert for it. I mean, you can sort of tell probably in some situations, can't you, Neil? If you're looking at a place and you're saying, well, they're the customer of record, but there's clearly 3 houses here, the renters in them. Maybe we should ask.
Oh, I mean, I think we do already.
You try to get on top of that.
We have meters for everywhere that we have a customer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a question of, do we know exactly how the water gets from our main to that meter?
Okay.
Definitely not. 90% of the time we do.
Yeah, it might be just an opportunity, at least to ask people. Pick up some of them, if you can, but.
Well, the follow-up
Appreciate
question
that.
is what's even more interesting to me is, okay, what if we do discover it, then what? What if we knew for a fact that there was a water service line under this guy's building, but it wasn't leaking? Would we require it to be moved, or?
No, but you could let them know, at least they know that they're at risk, at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think anybody that has a sewer line or a water line underneath their building needs to know.
If possible, I mean,
So we need to,
you
I don't know
but-
I don't know how many of these situations exist within our community, but like Mike, you said, you have a sewer line going across your yard that connects your neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that exists in the community. Most people, like most places, are just, I suppose was there never any sewer in front of your house?
There has
I mean,
never
not
been a
on-
sewer line.
Not on the gunfront, but on the streets.
There is a sewer line on 2nd Street, all the way across the street.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
sure when it was installed or why they decided to go the direction they did. I do know that when we replaced the water main this last summer, that
Yeah.
2nd Street was solid rock, and it was beautiful, smooth rock face down 8 feet to the bottom of the trench that they re-excavated. They did lovely work back in the whenever when they put that line in. So
Right.
maybe they were just
So
trying
they
to
just-
avoid that, although having dug in my yard, I can't see that they've avoided much of anything when it comes to rock, so it's a mystery.
And you don't know if there was an easement years and years and years ago or not.
We don't. Sometimes
No.
we can find it, but why would we even look or know to look or think to look until there's a problem?
Right.
What we know
Right.
is that we can play a role in preventing future problems today by insisting on things being correct. And
Yeah.
how this manifests most often now is when people are splitting their property. And we've had that a couple of times
Right.
in the past year where somebody's come in and said they want to split their property. And one of the first questions we ask is, does that building you're splitting off have its own separate utilities? And if it doesn't, then you need to put them in, or you can't split the property.
Yeah.
So back to the unfortunate woman with the high monthly bill.
Yeah,
Do you
Yeah,
offer,
I got,
do you offer any kind?
just for the record, Bill, I got the same, phone call, and she said she had written a letter to the city back on the 8th or 9th of August, but apparently, I don't know if it was an email or a letter, but I don't think the city got it, from what I understand.
I didn't get any of
So-
this, either a letter or an email.
Okay. Okay.
What we
Okay.
say about bills in general is if you are questioning whether you owe it, not whether you can pay it, but whether you owe it, there's a process for you to go through. And the Public Utilities Board, which is not you, but is actually a different board that the council appoints, can hold a hearing to decide, okay, is that a real bill? Do they actually owe that, or do they not owe that?
In this case, I don't think she's questioning that it happened, that she
Yeah.
used the water, came from the water supply, went into the sewer. She just was unaware that she had a toilet in the basement running, and is just
Yeah.
asking for some relief as a person on a fixed income without much resources. My question was going to be, can you offer at least a payment plan for that, where you spread it out?
Yeah,
over future
and have, and
payments?
as a matter of fact, I think have with that party in the past as well, so.
That would be something, but,
Yeah.
Somebody forwarded me this letter, so I'm sure I know
Yeah,
what
I
the
haven't.
problem is.
Yeah, I didn't get the letter, I just got a phone call. But, yeah, we'll make sure you get in touch with her then, and you guys can work it out.
Yeah, I think,
And we're always willing to do something with a customer who's trying to pay their bill. If they're trying to pay, we want to help them do
Yeah,
that.
I think her argument is, it was clean water going into the, I mean, she's just saying, she was unaware.
Yeah.
And,
I think it wasn't metered separately, but it was basically clean water going
yeah,
from the water system to the sewer
She's
system, and her bill usually averaged around $225 or $250 a month, and then she got a bill for like $600, and that's when she noticed that there was something going on with the water. That's so.
We used to have a policy at my business when somebody damaged something kind of through no fault of their own, you know, but maybe inadvertent negligence like that. It's one thing if they like deliberately did something stupid and broke a canoe, then we charge them for it. But if it was something where the wind picked it up or something and did damage, my policy was to split it with them. So I'd say, well, the damages are $200, you pay $100, I'll pay $100. And that seemed to make people very satisfied. They were always very grateful that I didn't ding them for the whole amount, when it really wasn't their fault, you know. I mean, it is their fault, but it wasn't
Yeah.
malicious.
It's not malicious.
Yeah.
It is completely their responsibility, but
Yeah.
it's not necessarily unreasonable
Exactly.
how it happened.
Exactly. So I don't know if that's a policy we could think about, something like that, or if that's too much of a can of worms. I mean, I have some sympathy with
Yeah.
people that have an inadvertent usage and as a one-time thing who are on tight income streams, and it's a
We-
major.
And it's a single elderly woman living by herself.
Yeah.
We typically
You know.
don't try to get in the circumstances of our customers because it's none of our business. And there are resources out there that do that try to help people that need help. And we can always connect people with those
Yeah.
folks if they need it. I think it would probably be a pretty tricky can of worms to sort out.
Yeah, that's true.
But, you know, if you want to have a policy like that, all we're saying is, as a community, we're going to collect a little extra in our utility bills to help people out when they need it.
Yeah.
So,
All right, I think that's clear. I'm satisfied with the education I've gotten.
okay. Well, you know where the rules are. You know that you write them. So, whenever something doesn't seem right, we can work on changing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I would just urge you to be alert if you see odd situations, maybe just inform the owner, hey, it's something odd going on here, you might want to look into this.
Sure.
Then at least they have the opportunity to, instead of just being blissfully unaware until something bad happens.
Yeah, and our first point almost always is in the office,
Yeah.
where, with our metering, where we're gonna notice there's
Yeah.
something going on.
Yeah, well, the automated metering will help a lot. That will really help.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that. But that's, do you have any of that in place yet, or is that still coming?
We have quite a bit in place. I don't know if there's one in this house yet or not.
Like the house I just bought's 2 years old, I'd have that. I have that, probably.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's not guaranteed,
Oh.
but I would think so.
Can you ask for it?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's not there and you want it, you give
Yeah.
us a call and we'll make arrangements.
Be a good thing to have.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where we started the installation during COVID supply chain issues, and so they weren't available for many years.
Have we had any large water leaks on residential or commercial establishments that were leaks that did go back into the septic system? Have we forgiven any bills on anything that was like this situation we're talking about?
No, we haven't.
What did we do at the YMCA pool when that had a water leak? Valve was stuck open, flooding the pool. That happened a few years ago. They burned tons and tons of extra propane to heat, and that's when they found out they had a valve stuck, which was continually running ice cold water into the swimming pool. There had to be a water gallonage issue there that was huge.
Yeah.
Was that ever brought to our attention? Was that brought to our attention?
I remember it, so it must have been. I don't remember what the disposition was.
Okay. I'm just bringing that up because it was an example of a water leak that nobody caught until they had to buy propane, and then they realized they went through a lot of propane to heat their water, and thus they also had to go through a lot of water. So I was just wondering if that was a issue that we had to face or look into or be part of. Deciding
I know
that.
we were asked about it, so I'll take a look back and see what I can find out.
Okay. All right.
Well, that's all we've got.
Okay. Any other items, Bill, that you want to talk about?
Nothing else on my
Have
mind.
questions? Okay. I don't have anything else either, so, I guess if that's everything we have, meeting can be adjourned.
See you, Craig.
Yep, thank you. 4:39. Patrick.